Oh, hey there, what's happening? Nice of you to join me again. And yeah, I'm still well and breathing. Thank you very much for asking. I'm finally back from what feels like an eternity of a hiatus. For those of you that might be wondering why, I graduated university late last year, and the reason I haven't uploaded in ages is due to some personal challenges I've had to face this year. And just because 2020 in general. Let's be honest folks, this year really needs no introduction. 2020 has really been a difficult year for all of us, and while it may seem like this is the end of the world, for those that are down and struggling to cope under these uncertain times, remember that there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Now let's talk about the Canon EOS R5 and R6. Can we just begin by finally giving Canon the round of applause that they deserve for leading innovation in what feels like the first time in a very long time. At long last, we're beginning to see the company emerge with a focus on a mirrorless future with cutting-edge technology and innovation. When Sony first started going mirrorless back in the day, the biggest camera manufacturers all pretty much just mocked them with an astounding level of ignorance. Just look at how things have changed. Hate me as much as you want for saying this, but it is undeniable that here, right now in 2020, mirrorless is the only way we are moving into the future. It's time to start phasing out DSLRs. There just isn't a compelling enough argument over mirrorless anymore, to be honest. And yeah, I know you just disliked this video, but go right ahead and dislike it again if you really hate me for what I just said. Canon has given us the EOS R5 and R6. And the reason why this is such a big deal is because we are finally seeing why and how they will continue to dominate the consumer camera market. Sony has had a lot of years to create a rather substantial reputation, if we're being completely honest, but here, right now, and today, the R5 is without a doubt the flagship mirrorless camera on the market right now. Everyone knows that Canon cameras in the past have always shown lackluster features and capabilities, mostly when it came to video. For photos, they've always been right up there in the mix, but in the mirrorless age where Sony, Panasonic, Fuji or Olympus cameras were just ridiculing Canon competition with their ability to be outstanding hybrid cameras, something had to give, and this is long overdue. Let's begin with the R5. We're looking at a 45 megapixel sensor with an anti-aliasing filter, which means that it has more than enough resolution to cover quite literally all kinds of photography. Canon is sticking to its roots, standing by anti-aliasing on its sensors, which somewhat indicates that they have complete confidence in the quality of their RF glass for sharpness. The camera also has 5-axis in-body image stabilization, and Canon says that you can get up to 8 stops of image stabilization when coupled with the right RF lenses. The R5 can do 12 FPS of continuous shooting with mechanical shutter and 20 FPS with the E-shutter. Mind you, these are 45 megapixel stills. This camera is absolutely nuts. Now of course that is a lot of data and the camera will have to slow down after 84 images, which isn't too bad. This will also need to be written onto a CF Express card. We have a 5.76 million dot OLED EVF and a 2.1 million dot LCD on the back. And the viewfinder runs at 120 Hz to give you that lag-free optical viewfinder feel. Now the video features are where this camera stretches its muscle and proves that it is designed for the gods. I mean seriously, if Zeus ever needed a camera, this would be it. The R5 can shoot 8K video at 30 frames per second or 2:1 oversampled 4K if you ever needed that. The camera will also record that 8K video internally and in a RAW format. And as if that isn't enough already, it'll record 4K video at 120 frames per second using the full width of that full frame sensor, albeit not making use of all the pixels available. Like honestly, what powers this camera? At this stage, this is simply just a fully fledged weapon of mass destruction. We also have the usual stuff like headphone and microphone jacks and the ability to record C-Log and HDR PQ video in 10-bit 422 files. All of this is housed in a magnesium alloy body that weighs 740 grams and fits in the palm of your hand. From Canon? What a time it is to be alive. The R6 is like the little brother to the R5, and I really don't know why Canon wants to launch their flagship camera with a not so flagship one when they already have the EOS RP in the lineup. The R6 is based around a 20 megapixel sensor and has quite a lot less features compared to the R5, most of which are video related. I'll just list these key differences on a side-by-side comparison. And as you would have probably noticed, the bodies actually look quite similar to the EOS R and EOS RP, which launched a couple of years prior. However, there are improvements in ergonomics and button layout. Canon launched their EOS R mirrorless line about 2 years ago, and let's face it, they were most definitely the last ones to join the party. We expected something amazing, but instead we were given the EOS R and EOS RP, which never really impressed and convinced. However, what they did show us was that they were ready to take this mirrorless thing very seriously, and it showed with their industry-first in-house lenses like the RF 28-70mm f2, which was unheard of for a standard zoom lens to have such a wide aperture. They really pushed the boundaries there, but at the same time, they didn't present enough hardware camera-wise to really shake up the industry. Now, this is finally it. I can just imagine how great it must feel if you're one of those people that initially invested in the EOS R line and has gathered some quality lenses by now. Now we see a camera like the R5 that can really utilize all that quality glass. All jokes aside guys, the R5 is the real deal, and from a person that doesn't like shooting Canon. Like, I've shot on 80Ds, 6Ds, and even more old school stuff like the 1100D, and I've just never been a Canon guy. I've always felt that Canon at some point lost track of the consumer market and stopped delivering feature-rich hybrid cameras at a time when people started getting into YouTube, Instagram, website design, and just general content creation. Canon for me offered cameras for photos, while other manufacturers like Sony, Panasonic, and Fuji gave us cameras you could use to take those same photos but record a indie film or music video with over the weekend. There was just more value for me as a photographer and videographer elsewhere. And I know some of you will talk about the Canon 1DX, but to be honest, that's the only Canon camera before 2020 that really offered serious video capabilities, and it costs an arm and a leg. The R5 will be expensive, and rightly so. A lot of people will be talking about overheating and recording limits like it's the end of the world. Don't be silly. This COVID-19 pandemic that we're facing right here is the end of the world, not a camera. This camera is a gem, period. And instead of thinking of it as an 8K camera, I believe it's better to think of it as a 4K camera that shoots 8K. I will admit the recording limits are tight at 20 minutes on the R5 doing 8K RAW, but I don't think a lot of people realize the sheer scale of data that is being processed here. That is 2600 megabits per second while shooting RAW. Think about it for a second. That equates to about 390 gigabytes from a single 20-minute video file. That is going to completely punish your workflow. Not to mention the level of computing power that is going to be needed to transcode and work through that file. The 20-minute thing is not a big deal. You're most likely not going to need to shoot longer than that in 8K. And if you're a fancy filmmaker, then you will almost never find a single on-production film take that is 20 minutes long. To put it into perspective, Canon does not even sell a cinema camera that can shoot 8K RAW video internally. So let that sink in for a second. Optical drone pilots will be absolutely thrilled with the R5. Just imagine being able to shoot full-frame 8K RAW aerial footage internally. That's where a camera like this becomes extremely valuable. The R5 is a statement, and a very big statement at that. One that says Canon is here and Canon is here to stay. Sony. Of course, the Sony a7R IV has a 61 megapixel sensor, but even Sony, the overkill kings themselves, couldn't figure out how to squeeze internal 8K recording into that body. And while the 5th generation of that camera might end up getting 8K recording, Canon has officially done the most un-Canon thing ever and outdone Sony at their own game. What a time to be alive. And of course, no product is ever perfect, guys. I am completely aware of that, but it's nice to see companies pushing technology and engineering to the limits, because at the end of the day, it's we, the customers, that benefit. I'll say it again, I've never been a Canon guy, but for the first time ever, I'm really scratching my head and thinking about joining the dark side. I am seriously that impressed. I just need to figure out which bank I'm gonna rob to be able to afford this camera. I just said that out loud, didn't I? Anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please drop a like or a comment if you did, and if you didn't enjoy it, make sure to hit that dislike button twice. If you're new to the channel, then make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell icon to get notified when I upload new videos. Catch you folks in the next one.